Let me just have my camera on. Hello, everyone. My name is Aurelia Munene. I'm very happy to connect with you. I am part of ADA Africa. I'm the founder, and I'm also part of the team that organizes activities and is supporting the Africana Journal Club. This is our last webinar, yay, one of the many. Today we are going to have a short session where we are going to show you what we have done this year and what we have achieved and what we are thinking of next year. We've been here for 7 years. It's been a long journey of love, of growth, of peer support. So we really are grateful. So my background, I am trained in many areas, but let me say for my master's, I'm trained in international development with a major in social policy. I have been working in the area of development for the last, should be going 18 years now. 18 years I've been working in this sector in different capacities, whether it is in health, research and mentorship. So today we are going to focus on an area that I'm really keen about, which is fieldwork. I've been involved in a lot of research projects over the years, both mixed methods or just singular methods type of study. And I thought I would use this time to share with you my thoughts and experiences of how you can prepare well when you're going to the field. Remember, this is the most crucial part of your research journey as well, because this is now where you're going to collect the data. All along, you've been telling people what you want to do for your research. You have framed your question. You have framed your objectives. You have done your theories. You have done your conceptual frameworks, how you're linking your variables. Now you're telling us, this is now the data I'm going to collect so that I can answer the questions that I have been posing. So it's a very crucial part, and I think one that is not overemphasized. So today's session, I would like it to be very interactive so that you can share your dilemma, and also we can discuss together in the ways that I have also done research, both academic and non-academic research. So that's what we are here today. Some people say, when should I start preparing for fieldwork? I say, even before, as you are conceptualizing your paper, you have to think about, where am I going to get this data from? So it starts as you're building your paper. It is not after you finished, it's when you're thinking, okay, now in my methodology, where will I go? It has to be part of how you're thinking. The questions you're asking, are you able to access the people that you want to access? Do you have access? Do you have the time? Do you have the funding? So thinking about your field work has to be part of how you also conceptualize the questions you want to ask. So thank you very much. I hope that gives you a bit of a background, and I'm happy to see you introducing yourselves on chat, and let's begin. So this session, as we always say in our sessions, we are not experts. All of us are peer supporters, so feel free to add on what I'm saying, feel free to correct, feel free to ask. This is really, truly a space of giving and sharing. So welcome. Do we have any question before we start? Okay, so as we start off, let me just put this out there to start us off, that as we are calling it fieldwork, remember, this field we are calling fieldwork. When we hear about a field, normally we think of an empty place or a football field, the imagination of a field. But I'll just like us to know that in as much as we are talking about a field, we are talking about people. We are talking about going into people's lives, whether their lives, it is in their homes, whether it is in their workplaces, whether it is in their laboratories. Always don't forget that when we talk about field, we are talking about people. And when we talk about people, we talk about issues of respect, issues of how do we enter people's lives, People who do not even know we exist, they only know of our existence when we start doing our research. How do we enter their lives in ways that respect them, in ways that are not exploitative, and in ways that actually maximize and they can benefit from our research? So please always have that in mind. A field is not an empty space. These are actual people's lives that we are impacting and we are influencing. Okay, so with that intro, let me just share my screen and then we can start off the session. So the first thing I'd like us to reflect upon is our own fieldwork. I'd like to hear, even if you haven't thought about it much, as I have said, it's good to start thinking about it as early as possible so that you see what is possible within the limits of your time, your skill set, and also within the limits of your type of research. Okay, so please let me hear from you. I told you this will be an interactive session. Use chat, or we can have 2 or 3 people unmute when speaking to tell us where are you going to do your field work? What methodology are you using? Have you thought about? I'd love to hear so that then we can even start anticipating the dilemmas early. Okay? What dilemmas, because one of the things that has come out for most students, they've run their research very well, but people in the field, in the so-called field, refuse to answer questions. Has anyone faced that dilemma with other students? People have no time for your questions. People say that they were not aware that this was they were not involved. So what most people do, I see them come on the journal club and they start telling people, please answer my questions. And sometimes I'm thinking, were we your sample? How are we answering the questions? Were we part of your target, or what has happened? So does anyone have such an experience you can put on chat where you found people are now struggling to get participants and they have to rely on anybody who can answer their questions? So you can imagine what type of research is that, where now your research is relying on anyone available to answer your question. Okay, so that I have seen as a challenge. And for most people is because they did not think about this when they were starting their research. Okay, so for me, I prefer a very interactive session, not one with a lot of slides. The slides are just to help to think, but not to truly just focus on them. Yes, someone is saying data collection is stressful. I need contact details. I need for my respondents from statutory bodies, but I have a hot brick wall because of data protection laws. Absolutely. I hear you, Makagutu. And this is I have hit a red wall. And this is now what happens. You have written everything, but you cannot access your participants. Let's see how we can have successful work, and let's see if we can answer your question, Makagutu. So let's start off the discussion with what type of fieldwork are you anticipating? What type of fieldwork are you anticipating? Will it be qualitative? Let's see on chat. Is it qualitative? Is it a mixed method study you're doing? About this, because this is our destiny. We are all going to collect data. So is it fully quantitative? Who are your data sources? Are you right now aware who will be your data sources? Are you getting your sources? Are they people? Are they documents? Are there experiments you're doing? Is it the soil? Is it the earth? What are your data sources? Because if that is not clear as you're designing your questions, it will be very difficult to access. Okay, what are your data sources? If it is people, do you know these people? Do you know how you can access these people? even before your fieldwork. If it is documents, do you have the right permissions? Do you have the right access to access documents that you can study? If it is observations you're making, do you have the right ethical clearance to observe certain things? Okay, so a lot of people are doing mixed methods. Let's see what people are doing. Okay, so there's a lot of mixed methods. Quantitative, so Godwin is water sampling. Okay, so Godwin, you have to start thinking, how do you have access to this water? Do you need any prior permissions? Mixed methods, Fatma, Millicent, mixed methods, Onyango, qualitative, I don't anticipate much problem. You never know, because also qualitative means people take a bit longer time, and also getting the right people may not be as easy as a survey, which has a bigger sampling than qualitative. So qualitative can tend to be very niche, and therefore you need to get the right people. Mixed methods, quite a lot of mixed methods. Mixed methods, people and their residents in the urban setup. Zembi, how are you going to meet these people? They don't know you. How will they start talking to you? Mixed method, teachers, educational offices. So great. What location are you going to do your study? Are you going to be in an urban area? Is your study going to be fully remote? Is it institutional? Is it online? Where is your location for your study? Are you going to travel? Okay. I will also add, are you going to have a team, or it's just you doing this work? Are you going to have a team? All of you are doing mixed methods. Are you the one who is the one collecting survey data? The one also doing qualitative interviews alone? Okay. Jonas says, my study is quantitative. I'm doing a quantitative microbiological risk assessment in a milk value chain, after which I want to test an experimental intervention on the bacteriophages. Okay. Thank you. So as you're doing this, Jonas, are you alone? Are we having teams? Are we traveling? Let's see the responses. Remember, if you're doing a mixed method, to do it alone, it's quite tough. It's quite tough. I have a team 4, qualitative, maybe 2 assistants. Yes. These assistants, are they people you have worked with? Are they people who might need training? Are they people who, because I haven't done research in the field for a long time. Sometimes you may have assistants who are really good at collecting data, but because they don't know the subject matter of what you're collecting, then for that study, they are not so good, because they will not be able to go deeper into that topic. So what type of research assistants are you doing? Are you getting people, if you're in environmental issues, I would say get assistants with a background in environmental issues. If you're in psychology, get assistants who have background in psychology. Otherwise, if you bring someone in health to do an environmental study, sometimes they don't have the, remember, as you collect data, you need to have the literature background so that you can probe, so that you can understand the responses. So if you have assistants who don't have this initial background, it's very difficult for them to do for you good work. Okay, so I'm doing the interviews for the qual and the one assistant. I'm yet to train. So if it's to train them, what are you training them on? Okay, so thank you. So I just wanted to push you a little bit to start thinking how much, not in an overwhelming way, but how much thinking there is when you start talking about the field. And I feel these questions have to be asked as you're developing your research question, so that you know what is possible, what is not. If you're past that now, you have an opportunity to start asking yourself, where will I get people to talk to me? Because as I've told you, many people are stuck with faking data because people have refused to give them permission. People have refused to talk to them because they don't even know them. They don't understand what they are doing. Okay. So thank you for sharing that. So why is fieldwork preparation very important? One of the most, remember, this is part of your methodology. Methodology is the how of your research. There is no way your research will be regarded as a quality research if the how of doing it has flaws. Therefore, preparing for fieldwork is part of how you are enhancing data quality and rigor. If you do not prepare well, you will have a lot of loopholes in how you collect the data, a lot of issues of poor quality coming during the collection. Even after you've done a brilliant concept, you've done a great conceptual framework, but the hooks of everything, how was this data produced? And that's why a lot of people look at the methodology, because now the methodology is where you're showing yourself as a researcher. The others, you are relying a little bit on other voices to build your story. But the methodology is where you as a researcher really are coming to now assert yourself fully, yourself to show your skills, to show how you are producing this data so that people can believe it, so that people can use it. Also, preparing for fieldwork helps us to reduce unnecessary risks and uncertainty. Because sometimes you might do a study thinking it's not risky until you go to the field, or thinking everything will align, people will talk to you, they must be used to students now, until people don't want to see you. You're like, what do I do? And I'm already at methodology stage. Also, preparing for fieldwork helps to build rapport with participants and partners. I always ask people, when are your study participants meeting you? Or at least, when are you having contact with the field? Is it when you're actually going to the field, or is it as you're building your study? And for me, I always tell people, please don't treat your participants as this mystery you're going to meet after 5 months of working on your paper. Meet them early. Have someone who can give you access. Like, for instance, when I was doing my first master's, because I was doing it in Netherlands, and I had to come to Kenya to collect data, and I was collecting my data in Mukuru, which is not where I reside. I had to make initial contacts. Who is going to help me access Mukuru? So I reached out to someone who knew someone, and I began talking to them. I asked, what do I need? Who do I need to talk to? And they told me, make sure you will get this. So I started preparing. So even in my own methodology for the proposal, I had already known the potential challenges. Who will mobilize? Will people ask for money? Who will be difficult? You already know this. So you're not just starting, the day you're going to the field is the day you're meeting people. Start early. Some people say, no, it means you're interfering with objectivity. Absolutely not. Let people also know, what are you coming to study from us? Let them, even sometimes we've had to tell people, we are coming to do this research. Please tell us the questions you'd like us to ask. Can you imagine now, if you go to that community, they are going to accept you. But if they don't know you, you're a stranger, you're appearing there with your notes, you are going to the hospital, people are busy. Why not visit that hospital before? Know who is in charge. Go and meet the matron. I want to do this study. Do you think it will be relevant? When can I come? When will be the good time? So it helps to minimize resistance and to build, more important, to build that relationship and ownership in research. Then you save your time and money, because now, having invested all this time and then your fieldwork is not well prepared, it can become very expensive. So you can also put on chat any other thing that we need to consider why it's important to prepare for. So today I'd just like us to talk about the planning of fieldwork, how do you implement it, and then the post-fieldwork reflection. Remember, how you implement your fieldwork, the reflections you do are so critical for your data analysis. Okay? So let's go to planning for fieldwork. Let's see on chat. What do you think are very important things to plan for fieldwork? One or two people can also unmute and respond. What do you, even for you, your research, what is most critical to think about when you're planning? Let's hear some voices. As I said, I don't want to speak alone. When you're planning, what are you planning for? One or two things? Let's put on chat. You have been very active on chat. Okay. Examining digital marketing adoption challenges, it's going to be purely quantitative. And especially quantitative studies that demand a lot of huge sample sizes. You really need to create the rapport quite early. Okay?
I think you plan.
Yeah.
It's about if you are it's a logistics. What do you need to go to the field? And then the people you are reaching for the information. I think this is very important because if you don't inform them in time, they may not have time to meet with you abruptly, just like that. So I think pre-informing the participant of your study is very crucial in research. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, people, it's about logistics, people, material, and resources. Do you have that thought about? Okay, logistics. And I always say, put yourself in the shoe of the person whom you're going to be involving in your study. Think about you in your daily life. You're doing life, you're doing your work, you have deadlines, and then someone just shows up from nowhere and says, I'd like you to ask you some questions for my master's or PhD. How would you feel? What if that person try and call you before, maybe even a month before, and say, I'll be coming, I am doing this study, share some of the questions or concerns you may have. We'll be talking about this. When are you available? Then you can make time, okay? Know your prospective participants, prepare your tools. Absolutely, your data collection tools have to be final version. But also, remember, I've seen sometimes also being in the field for a while, sometimes also you can adapt your tools based either on your pilot, but also, especially for qualitative, because the tool is always semi-structured, it means there's room for varying some of the questions. You can add some depending on how the participants or the kind of things, especially if you're using snowballing, the kind of information you're getting, you can adapt tools. But if it is a survey, there your tools have to be in final version. Because then you do not want to interfere with the consistency and the quality of the data. Plan for the money. Do you have a budget? Where will this money come from? Okay, time to spend, time to meet people, material, questionnaires, absolutely. So thank you for that. So the first thing about preparing for your fieldwork, clarity on what questions are you answering. I have seen people go to the field, but they're not even sure what am I asking. And then you collect so much data, and out of it, it's like a sieve. When you sieve it, you're only left with 3 or 4 pebbles of relevant data. So you have to have clarity, differentiating what are my research questions and what are my questionnaire questions. Because some people don't differentiate. Your research questions are not the questions you're going to ask participants. Your research questions are the broad questions that you want to answer. Then from there, you have developed questions that you're going to ask the actual people. Do you have clarity on that? Have you checked that the questions you're going to ask people in your tools, in your FGD guides, in your questionnaires will actually answer the main research questions? Is that clear? Is it final version? Has your supervisor checked them and it is clear? Because if there is inconsistency between the research question you're asking and the questions you're going to ask people, then it means you will have very good data but cannot answer your question, and you will have wasted your time and a lot of money. What exact data do you need so that you don't over collect data or under collect? How will each method and site support your goals? Okay, so if you're doing a mixed method study, where you're doing is the participants of the survey, are they also the participants of the qual? If these are different, how are you going to organize the qualitative survey itself, which in itself can be quite intense, especially if you have to do something like household survey? I've done those and they are not easy, but they are not impossible, but they just need good planning. If it is qualitative, how will you address the qualitative aspect? Do you want to do them the same time, or you want to first finish your survey and then now you can do your qual? So all these things, think about the method, what it demands, the rigor of the method, so that now you can prepare and where the sites will be. What assumptions are guiding your design? Are you maybe making assumptions of access, assumptions of participants, assumptions of how to actually do to the process? So think about, so you really have to have time to really prepare very well. What am I assuming? Am I assuming that maybe like what one of us has said about data protection laws? Maybe there are some laws that won't allow me to collect this data the way I wanted. Have we checked that? So the methods, if I'm doing observations, how am I going to set up a study for observation? Like for my master's, that time I was doing a participant observation together with qualitative. I was doing fully qualitative. So I was doing FGDs, participant observation, and key informant interviews. And all of them demanded something different. If it is the FGD, I had to mobilize 6 FGDs. If it is the participant observation, I had to be placed in a hospital where I worked for 1 week because participants observation means you're observing, but you're also part of. So I was working as I'm doing observation. So I had to release a whole week to be there to do participant as a methodology. Then I had key informant interviews, which I had to prepare. So each method comes with its own demands and it's of time, its own place. So you have to really think about that. Your sampling strategy. There's a study I was doing fully housed. It was in 4 counties in Kenya. I was the PI. And this study we were doing household survey. We were doing stratified sampling. So we had to sample using the national census data. We had to use the county data, sub-county data, ward data, going all the way to be able to reach the households. And then we had to count out of 10 households and all that. So also think about the sampling strategy. How will you sample that? Most of you are doing mixed methods. How will you actually sample? Are you sampling a particular region? Are you sampling, is your sample going to involve different locations? How will you go about it? Then the tools, doing piloting. Where are you going to do your piloting? How are you going to do it and integrate the findings into the final? The sequencing, the fill time, and also the contextual barriers. Are there cultural, like for studies that I've done in Northeastern Kenya, I've always had to really even tailor the tools to the culture. If I'm doing study in Western Kenya, I tailor it to the culture. If it is in Nairobi, so the geographical context, all of that has to be tailored. Otherwise, you might face a lot of issues. So that clarity must be there from the beginning. If you don't know how to do the sampling technique, please go to people who know, practice, read YouTube, how will I sample, so that people do not put question mark on your results because your sampling was not good. The other thing about planning is your ethical approvals. Do you have all your ethical approvals ready? And I was very shocked when I came to do my master's because I thought the NACOTSI, in Kenya we call it the NACOTSI, I thought that was enough for ethical clearance. Until now, I went to the Nairobi County, like the district, maybe some would call it district, and they said, no, we also need to give you a license. Then I went to the actual hospital. They say, no, we still need to give you permissions. So I spent 3 more weeks not starting the study because, yes, I had the NACOTSI permit, but I did not have permits of these other institutions. I had assumed that the one for the ethical clearance would open all doors. They said, no, this is a different institution. This is a different layer of government administration. You still need our permission. So do you have all those institutional approvals on top of the ethical? Of course, you can never go to the field if you don't have the main ethical clearance. Community gatekeepers and community permission. So I was doing some of my study in the hospital where I told you I was working as I do participant observation. But the FGDs, I had to go to the community. And I was told you will not access this community unless you talk to the chief. So I had to report to the chief office and tell the chief, I am here in your community, because also research projects have become very political, in quotes, politicized. Like the chief will be like, who are those in my community? And they have not told me. So I had to go to the chief. The chief wrote me a letter. And now that's the letter that allowed people to be mobilized and come to me. So you see, those are layers that are never told. But if it is an organization, yes, you have your ethical, but then the organization, you need to meet the CEO to give you permission, because data is also very sensitive. Data can make or break careers or institutions. So people are very sensitive. So there's a lot of gatekeeping. Data protection and privacy design. Like in Kenya now, we have a very stringent law. Have you understood that law? Now that you're going to collect people's data, or are you going to be sued the minute you finish your research, you're heading to the court because you did not? So you have to also look at the data protection laws of your country. What do they allow? What do they not allow? And then consent is so important. Verbal, written, ongoing consent. These days, we don't say consent is, the way I gave consent in the beginning is still, you have to keep checking. Are you still okay with this? Do you want to withdraw? So ongoing consent is very important. And then now safeguarding. If you're doing topics related to violence, topics related to marginality, to poverty, to children, do you have the safeguarding protocols? You know, sometimes I see people have written the consent form. It's like a routine. Anonymity. How will you maintain anonymity as safeguarding? How will you, So all these things have to be, it is not just saying, it is how will you actually do it. And right now I'm doing a study, and we had to, as it should, say everything. If it is confidentiality, exactly how are you going to maintain confidentiality? If it is data management, where are you storing the data? How long are you going to store that data? How will you be feeding it in every week, every day, to maintain the rigor of the data and the safety? Okay, so ethics is beyond a consent form. It is a process bigger than a consent form, and the approvals that you need. Please put your thoughts in the chat. Any question, you can raise your hand and answer. Mobilization, engaging the community, introducing your research clearly. Have people understood what you're going to research? Or they're still not clear why you're here? And now we are working with communities that have been over-researched. So they're even tired. They're like, this one feels like the one someone else did last month. What is so new about your research? So these days, people are also not very keen to just talk because they've been talked to, and most of the time they don't see results. Yes, Godwin, please.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted for a clarification on the difference between a consent and then the ethical clearance and institutional protocols. I want to know whether there is any difference between the two concepts.
Yeah, thank you, Godwin. So the ethical clearance is a broader process that you have applied to apply to. So we have two levels. We have institutionally, your university has to clear your research, right? It has to say that this research, we feel it is fit, it is not harmful, it is rigorous enough, you have clearance. Then, which means you meet an ethical committee, institutional based, which approves this. Then, according to every country, we have a body that provides license for you to do a particular research. So you also have to apply to them, showing them that institutions have accepted. Now I am applying to get the product, like in Kenya, it's called NACOTSI. So they will ask you for many things, one of which is the consent form. The consent that you're going to, consent means what? To consent means to agree to something. So that's the form that is part of the ethical, part of the materials that will be analyzed as part of the ethical process to show that you have a very clear way of how people agree to participate in your study. That is the consent. Now, the consent has to be well detailed for people to feel comfortable to participate in your study. Otherwise, if your consent is not clear, people might participate, first of all, not even understanding what are their risks, what is the benefit. So the ethical process is broader. Consent is part of the processes that enable ethics. And this is what now you build in. This is what you give participants to read before they participate in your study and make a decision whether or not they want to participate. So a consent form has to, first of all, show what is this research about? What is the purpose? What are the benefits? What are the benefits of participating? What are the risks of participation? How are you going to manage these risks? How will confidentiality be maintained? How will anonymity be maintained? How will data be managed? How long will my data be stored? What are some of the safety measures that have been put in this study? When will I get results? All that goes to the consent form, so that if someone reads it, they can now make a decision. Yes, I'm going to participate in this study because I have understood totally what it is about. So that's the difference. So the consent is the agreement you have with the participants, but the ethical process is the whole procedure that you have to undertake to give you clearance to undertake your study. Is that clear?
Yes, madam. Yes, it's very clear. And also, so instead of just writing the consent on a form, is it also okay to just say it verbally? Because I've seen that in the point 4. For instance, instead of writing the consent of, let's say, my questionnaire, I just come, I say, okay, this is the purpose of my research, these are the risks, verbally. Then before I begin, is that also acceptable?
No. Even if you saw verbal is, of course, someone has to accept verbally. Then now you invite them to now give them the actual consent so that they read. And the practice is they are left with a copy and you're left with a copy. So if anything happens and they see your research is published, at least they were left with a copy to check if all those things that you said you will do, you have done. So I would say verbal is important because you can't just shove to someone something to read. They first say yes, and then now you proceed to give them something written so that they can have time to read. You discuss it with them, make sure the consent is in a language that they can understand. And even for children, their parents have to give consent and the children have to give what we call assent. They also have to give assent for you to talk to them. And therefore you talk about it. Then once they have understood, now you tell them, please sign here. Here is your copy. Here is my copy. So I would say have it written, but at least get the verbal consent first so that then it's not very mechanical that you're shoving papers at people. They don't even know who you are. So that's what I would say.
Thank you.
Okay, so identifying your stakeholders, that one we have said. Who are the stakeholders of your study? Every study has stakeholders, those who have interest, those who influence things, those who want the study to be done, those who don't want the study to be done. Do you know the politics also around your study so that then you are aware beforehand? Manage expectations. Like for me, when I went to the community. They told me, absolutely, madam, you will not talk to us without giving us something, giving us even lunch. So, and these days, when I've applied to NACOTSI they always ask you, are you going to refund participants' transport? It's now become almost a standard. And the answer is yes. People who are earning daily wage did not go to work because of your study. Is that ethical? So that you all put it in the methodology that participants, it's not payment, it's just refund of their transportation. And that there I had to put in my budget that I had to refund transport, and people were happy. And ensuring and that people may say is not objective, but it is. I mean, someone is not working because of you. Is that also ethical? And that doesn't mean it interferes with their responses. In fact, it even makes them more relaxed because now they are feeling respected, they're feeling more comfortable to participate without worrying, as my child eaten today, they will not eat because I'm here, and all that. Also know the local norms and negotiating access transparently. Now here we have to talk about the team. The team is so important, and you have to train them on the tools, the ethics and safeguarding. In short, what you know about your study, your team also has to know to the extent possible. So that, because your team member is not a replacement of you, is a complementary of you. Therefore, if they're speaking a different language from you, then it means your study will not hold. You will have this information, this one asked, this one was probing, this one was not probing. Then you will not be able to understand your data. So remember, your team assistants are a complementary of you. They are not your replacement. So they really need to understand not just the tool. They need to understand, what is this study about? What are the objectives of this study? They really need to have that clarity. They understand communication. How do you build the team? How do you manage? People can be distressed. A study I did with young people, they were quite restless most of the time in terms of, are we going to get paid? Who are these people? And I had to call them and say, guys, you have contracts, please relax. You will be paid. Do this research with one heart. And then after that meeting, they were relaxed, So always also check if the team members are also okay, because if they're not okay, they interfere with the data. Some will sit under the tree and all that. Divide the roles and duties. Make sure they are well divided. I've always found it helpful where you can to have like a supervisor, someone, if you're doing like a survey, someone who can also help you supervise a bit. And then you have some assistant, someone in charge whom the others will be bringing data to if they're not bringing to you, so that at least, especially if you're working in many locations, you have someone also supervising who will be handling the everyday data. Okay, so make sure your teams have contracts and they are compensated properly. Otherwise, you will have problems. Team protocol, this one we do it. You have to organize daily briefing sessions with the teams. Otherwise, if you let someone go, your team went 1 month ago to collect data, you've never talked to them, you will never know what's happening, and therefore your data can even be suspicious. So for me, if I do a study, we have to meet every morning. What happened? What did you write? And then I ask them, please send a summary every morning of what was the discussions. Because sometimes you find you collect data, then some of it is not well documented, then it disappears. So this is where you're setting up if it's a Google Drive, where people will be uploading data every day. So for me, the studies I've done, data is uploaded every day. And then where you can afford, you can also have someone help you with transcribing. If you don't have a software, they can help you with transcribing and they're uploading, so that you don't have a lot of backlog. Because what I have seen in the field, sometimes you also forget you start forgetting because maybe people are too many, especially for qualitative. So it's good to have practices of data management where things go up immediately debriefings, Summaries are going up daily. If it is the surveys are a bit easier because you're using tools like Kobo. You know that is also being uploaded. But from experience, you also need someone monitoring the survey data that is coming in. Like for us, one of the studies we did, one of the research assistants was faking data. They did not go anywhere. They just sat at home. And because we were doing geo-tracking, the person who was monitoring every day noticed an inconsistency. And they were like, wait a minute, what's happening with this data? There's no movement, but a lot of data is coming in. And we had to call them out. And they said it is true. They did not go anywhere. So even for quantitative data, you need someone to continuously tracking how is the data coming in? Are we getting the right age group? Are we getting the right participants? Or people maybe have confused, or even you yourself, you've confused. Safety and all that, file sharing protocols, who has access to what files? Have you put keywords? And you can use a simple Google Drive. Just make it password protected and have your data there. So that in your consent form, you said, we will keep your data very well, but alas, people's data are on people's phones, people's data are still on your laptop where people can read. That is not good management of your data. Okay, I think building trust we've talked about, not over-promising people, because this has brought a lot of issues for people. Collecting more than what you need. I've seen that as a major problem for many people because you did not have clarity. So what most people say, let me just collect it a lot so that then I'll save later. Absolutely not. So I wanted us to do a quick case study, but I see our time is gone. But I will just pose some dilemmas. Then let me pose some dilemmas. Then we can, let me just get the dilemma. Let me just read them. So even we have one dilemma here from one of us, let me not say the name, who is not able to access their participants because they need to consider data protection. What can they do about it? Well, that's not more of a dilemma, that's more of a challenge. What can you do with that? How can we help such a person? You have gone to the field, you thought you would just talk to people, then alas, you cannot access that population. What do you do? Let's hear some answers. How can we help? Anybody? Yes, please go ahead. Godwin?
I think when in that situation, it probably means that you did not, contact their leaders in advance before going. So when you find yourself in that situation, you have to look for maybe the chief or whoever is in charge in that community or town. Then you talk to them before they, for instance, if you talk to them, they might even recommend places for you to go to assess the population or samples.
Absolutely. So they have to track back now and now go back and start now going back again now to see how can you gain access. Okay. The other dilemma, this was a long case study, so I'll just be looking. You go to the field and then you find participants, they refuse to talk to you until you give them money. What do you do? They say, Madam, thank you for coming, but we are not going to talk until you give us something. What will you do? Anyone? Has anyone faced that challenge? Participants want to be paid before they speak to you. How do you navigate that? And it's something you hadn't anticipated. And this could be even employed people. It doesn't have to be like some people in the community. It could even be workers at work. They just say, you know what? We are not speaking to you until, let's see, any response. We'll go back and give report to the supervisor so that they will make a decision. Okay, that can be one way. I think the other way is also being very clear, speaking to them again. First of all, reminding them that this is a student level research without a lot of funding. Because this one I found, especially when you're a student, you can't overpromise, you'll also pay people. Then you tell them what you can manage is not any payment, is just a refund of transport they may have used, just to tell them thank you. And I've seen in situations where people feel that you are not dismissing them, you're not thinking of them as greedy or corrupt, but you're just sitting and explaining the circumstances of your research, people will always listen. I've seen people actually listen. And those who absolutely do not want to participate until something is given, then you just count your losses and say, for that, I'm not able to do, and you move on. So always rely a lot on your communication skills and also on the goodwill of people, and the people that always have that person who helps you access, maybe who helps you get access. But remember also, these people sometimes can be, I've seen gatekeepers who are also gatekeeping who you can talk to. So just use a lot of your communication and negotiation skills and transparency to speak about some of these things that emerge. Okay, so some of the post fieldwork reflection is a lot of debriefing. And what are you debriefing? What worked? What did not work well? Remember, all this will go to your methodology. What dilemmas did I face and how did I solve them? And those are some of the dilemmas that you face. Or there is one where I was doing for young girls and the parents refused to go. You tell them this study is about young girls 15 to 17, but we get your consent, but we will be left with the girls. And the parents say, no, I'm not leaving. So that's also a dilemma, because now, of course, the young girls will not be able to talk freely. So we talk, we negotiate, we show them the questions, and then some of the parents now agree to leave. So those are the dilemmas you may face. How did your identity, this is where now reflexivity come in. Like for me, when I entered where I was doing my study in Mukuru, even if I tried to dress like the people, they said, no, we know you're not from here. So remember, when your identity as a researcher influences how people talk to you. If they perceive you a certain way, that's how they're going to respond. And that's part of your own reflection. How do you feel your identity, maybe being a woman, a man, of a particular class, of a particular whatever? How did that influence how people answered the questions? And how did it also influence your own biases about them? That's part of how you write your methodology when you come back. What changed from the original plan? You had planned to do this number of people, but you only manage this number. How is that affecting your study now? Are we able to still get the results we wanted? Write all that. What learnings have you had from this study? Maybe the way you trained your assistants was very good, so the study went well. It was very difficult to get access, so next time. So remember, research is about learning. It's not about knitting in. My research mentor always told us, bring out the messiness of your research. Don't try to make it very clean. People accepted me. Everyone wanted to do this research. Be very honest. People don't want to talk to me. I had difficulty with particular population. Reflect on that. That's the learning. That's how we will understand how this knowledge you're calling knowledge was produced. So the main takeaways is preparation, but also flexibility. Don't be stuck to your plan. Prepare, but also leave room for flexibility. Community mobilization and team readiness. People have to be well aware of your study many months before you come to meet them. It is not when you're coming to meet them, that's when they're seeing you and your study for the first time. It's going to be difficult. Let them have at the back of their mind, there's someone doing this research. It's interesting. I'm going to be a participant, and all what I'm awaiting is feedback. Ethics, safety, reflexivity are ongoing. So even ethics, there's something we call situated ethics. You keep thinking about ethics as they emerge. Now, people are demanding money. People are saying, I cannot get the license before I pay something. That's an ethical issue. So you have to keep reflecting on that as you go on. Field realities need adaptation and a lot of humility. And then reflection strengthens rigor and credibility. Kagendo, who is our program manager, she'll be speaking shortly. She always reminds us, people do not learn from experience. People learn from reflecting on experience. So you have to, I'll have a lot of reflection in your fieldwork before, after, and during, so that you continuously improve. Final word, I would say, don't neaten your research. Don't try and remove the thorns. Please let your methodology show the thorns, the roses, so that someone else who is thinking of this type of research in this type of context, then they know what to expect. So thank you very much. That's all I had for today. This was the case study I was trying to glean out of a master's student. But yeah, so that's what I had for you today. And thank you for participating. Don't go yet. We are not done. One more minute. We would like to have any questions, but also we would like also to show what we are doing next year. I'm sure you're very interested how we are building the program. So let me invite Kagendo, please come on board and share that. So please don't leave. So thank you very much. I'm always available for fieldwork. I've done this many times. In fact, now I'm taking a break on fieldwork, but always reach out. We can also, next year, we can also do, Kagendo, you can be putting up your slides. Next year, we can also do a session step by step. How do you do the ethical clearance? So I can show you how I applied for ethical clearance, what we go through, what do they ask for? Because what I notice, sometimes they ask for things you didn't think about, and now you don't have time to get them, then now you're delayed. So how do we go to the site, we see what are they asking for, how do we prepare for those materials? Kagenda, put up your slides. Then we will also go through how do you train your research assistant? What do they need to know? That I have done many, many times. We'll also look at how do you manage data? Because most of you are doing data management. Yes. Most of you are doing, what is it called? Mixed methods. So it means you'll be managing quite a lot of data. How do you manage your quant data? How do you manage your qual data? Then we will go into how do you take notes? Note taking for qualitative is so critical. How do you take the nonverbal notes, notes about nonverbal communication and the verbal? So we will do all that next year. I'll dedicate time to do that because it's something I've done many, many times before. So let's listen to Kagendo. It's just a few slides for us to see what we are doing next year and to invite your thoughts as well. Over to you.